much the crap sandwich they're giving us to eat.
All right. So yes, I think it's a crab sandwich, kind of with two crab pieces of bread. Oh, sorry. Sorry, just trying to see one of our speakers. All right. So some of the details, right? One, it extends non-payment eviction protections for folks that can pay 25% of their rent until September 30th of this year. Again, nowhere near long enough. And they say that it's because that gives it enough time for the rental assistance program to finish up. We disagree. The rental assistance program actually debuted in March 15. Much less than half, actually I think less than even a quarter of that money, less than a quarter of that money has actually been spent so far since March, right? So what's the guarantee that this money will be spent in a way that is actually going to help people by September? That's not enough time, right? Considering all the problems the program has had. It actually makes it so that if after October 1st, if you get taken to court because of an unlawful detainer due to non-payment, right? Then, only then, will the court can say, okay, we're gonna put aside this unlawful detainer if the tenant qualified for rental assistance, right? So what does that mean, right? First of all, we all know that once it gets an unlawful detainer, once it gets to court, the tenant loses so much of their power because there's not enough legal aid resources in this state and in this country, right? So 95% of tenants go into an unlawful detainer in the court for eviction unrepresented, right? Whereas more than 90% of the landlords go in represented. That means you're going up against somebody whose sole job, aside from the landlord, the lawyer, whose sole job is to make sure that you're out of that unit as soon as possible. So they're saying, okay, if your case goes to court, the judge and the courts, they'll know that we have to check to see if you've received rental assistance or not. How are they going to make sure of that, right? The courts already are overwhelmed. The courts are already struggling to move cases forward. They don't have enough staff. Staff feels unsafe about coming out back to work. But they're saying, yeah, they're going to take all this time to double check that you haven't received that rental assistance. And then if you're not eligible, then we'll move the case forward. So we're saying that's wishful thinking. We're saying that's actually not going to happen. Because that means it's on the tenant to make sure that happens, right? And so how are people going to know how to do that? So that's another thing. It does say though, the one even good thing that I can see, and that's something that we actually already won in this last package, is that it makes the masking of any court or unlawful detainer based on non-payment or any lawsuit in Superior Court or back rent, it can mask it, which means that it's sealed from your record. Again, that is not as much up to the tenant, that is up to the court. So it depends, will the court follow that? Will it be diligent about that, right? Will they make sure that happens? And what happens if your case does become public and it impacts your ability to find another home, right? What's the recourse there? Kind of one of the biggest things that I have a real problem with is the fact that it gives landlords up to 100% of the rent that they have lost since April 2020, right? Up to 18 months. And in exchange for that, they basically just have to take the money, and the tenant, again, gets until September 30th in terms of non-payment protections. That's not enough. There's no additional no-fault protections. It only extends the AB 1482 protections that give some minimal just cause protections to all housing. It only extends until September 30th as well. So they're basically getting this sweet, sweet deal for nothing, right? Boo! Sorry guys, I'm losing my voice control. But look at this sweet deal. How many people here have lost their job or know someone who lost their job during this pandemic? Right? How many here who lost their job or who know someone who lost their job have been able to recoup all their wages from that time they were out of work? I'm not seeing any hands, right? So that means that every person, every small business that has lost money in this pandemic has not been able to recoup it, all of it. Landlords are being given that opportunity, right? And that is because the CAA is in the governor's pocket and vice versa, they're in each other's pocket. And because, and Newsom was willing to give them this sweet deal with minimal give from them. So, and last, also, it makes it so that local or jurisdictions, so like San Francisco, Oakland, LA, any other city, cannot pass new non-payment protections until March of 2022. That means that from October 1st till end of March, March 31st. Yeah. Until for 6 months, at least 6 months, tenants will have no additional non-payment protections due to COVID. And local jurisdictions will not be able to change their laws to protect their folks locally, right? So that's another giveaway. And we're like, you're just giving landlords the ability to further evict people, while again, you're giving them all their money back, right? So we feel, again, that the details of this deal are awful. They work against tenants, they take away our rights and our ability to increase our rights locally. They don't give us any additional no-fault eviction protections. And also, it sunsets the 15-day notice. So when the pandemic happened, they changed the rules so that instead of a 3-day notice to pay or quit, you got a 15-day notice to pay or quit, right? Which is like, a little better, but you know. So we were first told, oh, they're gonna extend that until next September. We were like, okay, a little better. But now we know though, that that's actually only being extended until September 30th.
It should have been 30 days in the first place.
Right? It should always have been 30 days and not 3. So now they're saying though, starting October 1st, we're going back to 3-day notices for pay or quit. Right? Which was never good enough and it's not gonna be good enough now, right? So again, we're getting a raw deal. We're being sucked dry. We are getting no additional help from the governor that doesn't just benefit landlords. This is not good enough. Tenants are not okay. Okay, tenants are not okay. You're making sure landlords are okay, but you're not making sure tenants will be okay, right? How do you feel about that? That's right. So, if people have any questions, happy to answer them. If we have another speaker, we'll also bring them up. Any questions we can answer? Yes.
I have a question. So I just want to know why eviction equals death.
One of the reasons that we have a sign that says eviction equals death, and why we have a coffin that says that, it's because they do. There was a study done nationally that says that over 10,000 more people died because they were unhoused, they were made homeless, and they were evicted during the pandemic. Eviction equals death because especially during this pandemic, being evicted means you're being tossed out into a world where you can get infected with COVID. And you're forced to have to move, look for a new place, to double, triple up with family and friends, which again exposes you more. And that could equal death for so many. And in general, eviction has always equaled death. Because it stresses you the fuck out until people get sick. We know so many folks, elderly, young, people that have been sick, people that weren't sick, that because of an eviction were broken physically, mentally. And that was even before the pandemic. That wasn't even just now. So evictions will have always equal death. They will always equal death.
Thank you, Lupe. Her voice is going.